Welcome to Engineering Wellbeing at Jinshan, a podcast where we explore well-being as a bridge. In each monthly series, we take one theme and explore it through four complementary lenses: a systems-level framing, a technology perspective, a specialist or scientific viewpoint, and a cultural Chinese context lens. Because well-being is never one-dimensional. It's biology, psychology, social, cultural, and technology, all at once. We explore well-being as a bridge. In each monthly series, we take one theme and explore it through four complementary lenses: a systems-level framing, a technology perspective, a specialist or scientific viewpoint, and a cultural Chinese context lens. Because well-being is never one-dimensional. It's biology, psychology, social, cultural, and technology, all at once. Today we have an amazing guest. Many of you have probably heard of him, Dr. Paul Rochon.
Thank you, Dr. Rochon.
How are you today?
I'm very good. I'm glad to be here again and to restart the talk.
Well, Dr. Rochon, I know you do many things, and I hear that you're starting something new, this podcast. Can you tell us, why did you decide to start this EW podcast?
Yes, thank you. I think it's great to start by a little overlook of everything, right? So this podcast idea is about bringing well-being from China to the rest of the world. So well-being is a general idea, right? Maybe we're going to go in this definition later, but it's to bring the point of view of China on the well-being in general, and the way they use it, and the way they use technology better than the rest of the world, I would say, and how can the rest of the world can learn from the way people do here.
Yeah, I think for many people, this aspect of learning from China is quite different, but they have a lot to share, and I think your podcast is an amazing idea. Now, the first topic of your podcast is youth generation. Why this topic out of all the many topics you could choose from China?
So we're going to go through a lot of different topics this year, I'm sure. But yes, I wanted to start by the youth, because youth is the hope in this world right now. Youth is a hope, right? So a lot of things to say, I would say, about youth, but youth specifically in China is very interesting. So.
Now, I mean, you're talking about youth. What do you mean by youth exactly? I mean, I think I'm youthful, but my wife might disagree with me. What about you? What are you talking about specifically?
Youth, I don't think it's an age. Of course, we're going to talk about teenager. We're going to talk about between 10, 18 years old, right? But I think it's better to define youth by a development phase.
Oh, that's interesting.
So youth is the moment where you are developing your nervous system, your social capacity, your belonging system. So all that is always in movement. And that's what is youth definition. Until 25 years old, actually, your brain is maturing. So we could count youth until 25 maybe, but today we're just going to stay between maybe teenager years, I would say.
Well, I know a lot of people will focus on age, and I think that's a great point that you're making. Now, the other part of the podcast, you mentioned this word well-being. What do you mean by this word? This can also have many different interpretations.
Yeah, right. The common mistake I will hear is well-being is happiness. But I will say happiness is the outcome of if your well-being is correct. But that's not the main goal of well-being. Well-being is a system. And what kind of system is a biological system, but it's a psychological system, and it's a social system. So basically, well-being is a way we modulate ourselves in those systems, not the medical paradigm where we are taking care of ourselves when we are feeling something wrong. The well-being paradigm is when we are feeling okay, and what do we do to elevate ourselves or to feel better.
That's really deep, Dr. Paul. I have to say that most of us common people, we actually just think about sick or not sick. And your definition is letting us understand that it's not about being sick, but there's a bigger meaning to it. Now,
this comes from China actually. I just stop you, sorry. I think this concept of taking care of yourself before you feel sick, it's a very intrinsic of the Chinese medicine or the Chinese concept of a different spiritual thinking.
Well, I mean, we've defined well-being, we've defined youth, and kind of looking at the youth versus people that are of different ages, do you often find that there's some differences between the two as a professional doctor dealing with well-being?
Yes, I think there is a lot of difference, which is belonging to the fact that youth is in development. So a system which is already here with the older people, which is already, I would say, crystallized somehow, the system will work differently than the youth which are always developing. And so the problem of well-being will be different between those two populations. I would say the number one problem you will see with the youth, it's the system of the belonging system. So let's think about, we know that the scrolling, the kids who are scrolling a lot, and it's creating a lot of anxiety with the teacher or the parents. And so this is creating a lot of different little mirror for them to start to create their social well-being, I would say, okay? So here we are in the social well-being. So all this scrolling, it's creating a lot of feedback for them. When before actually the system of feedback were just basically the family or the teacher or the friends. So it was pretty small, but it was quite stable. Here we arrive in a moment of the life where you are trying to understand the social and your way of interacting with the social. And actually you get all those mirrors which are giving you a lot of interesting way on how you look. So you take care a lot about what you look like in terms of the way to express yourself or just the physical, but you are very on the same time, you don't really know on the same time who you are. So this unbalance on you don't know who you are, but actually you know what you should look, make a lot of identity and belonging issue.
Wow. Yeah, who am I? Let's type that in the box, and any comments about that, put it in our comment box. Now, Dr. Paul, you mentioned that who am I is quite important. Do you see differences of how that would be defined now versus 20, 30 years ago? Who am I, answering that question, and how does that relate to well-being?
Yeah, I think this question, when you are in a teenager year, everybody asks this question. You can remember your teenage years, right? And we all pass by this moment about trying to define our identity. And so 20 years ago, maybe you didn't have how much, you were not hyper aware of your looking. So I would say the big difference in this one. The non-stop feedback of the system, which is telling you it is right or if it's wrong. So here we go more inside of the neural pathway, which is creating a lot of like a feedback loop, which are reinforced by what you are doing, and therefore they're always looking for this novelty. So this is a concept of novelty as well. Because you watch a lot of new things all the time, you are always triggered by learning something new. And this triggering is bringing, like, we know the dopamine pathway, but the thing is, like, when you stop that, then you create anxiety. So there we are looking, the brain is always like scanning for something new all the time. So this is one thing that we can see on the youth generation as well. We will see this high level of anxiety when they are not then having like a feedback of something else. And so therefore, I come back to the thing I said before, it's you are hyper aware of what you should look, but you don't know exactly who you are inside. You don't spend time to go deeper on this question.
Wow. Now, I know with today's youth, something that all of us commonly see is some type of device in their hand. Is this have any relationship with that feedback loop you were just talking about? Does technology or digital devices somehow influence this?
I mean, everybody is using a device now, and I think we are going to talk about that in another one of the 4 podcasts. We're going to talk about this technology and how we can use technology toward our well-being, but how it's impacting our well-being as well, right?
Yeah.
So here I can share with you one which is I think is interesting is the concept of orthosomnia. Mm-hmm. Orthosomnia is a concept of you have a wearable, mm-hmm. and you measure your sleep, and then the morning when you get up you feel you sleep pretty good, but your machine is telling you didn't sleep that good. So what do you feel?
Happens quite frequently.
Right? Yes. Or the opposite. And then you will start to create anxiety. And so orthosomnia is the anxiety which is by watching those technology telling you your biofeedback. So the biofeedback is interesting when actually it's managed by a third party, but when it's like one-on-one, you might create even more anxiety about, did I make it right? And specifically on the young generation, because at that time, their work, their identity is about learning things, it's about making right, making better and better. That's what we ask young people to do, and that's what they think they have to do as well. So think about this kind of technology into them raising even higher the perspective of maybe they are not as good as they should be, therefore even more anxiety. So yeah, that's
wow. That's interesting. So devices that are meant to help improve your well-being can actually at the same time cause anxiety for your well-being. That's interesting. So in the box below, type in young people and share your thoughts, audience, with what you'd like to share. Now, with anxiety, I mean, you're talking about devices. Would you say today's youth have more anxiety because of all of these things, or does it seem to be reducing with the most recent generations?
So I think we have a trend which is on the same time more anxiety, and on the same time multiple ways to diminish this anxiety. So it's kind of
so like a back and forth.
Yeah, it's back and forth. So intrinsically you have more anxiety because everything I said before, more novelty, more a mirror, so it creates more needs actually to check outside of yourself what is the world. But at the same time we talk about their capacity of being born inside, which is like instead of for us having something which is outside, something we use, it's already an intrinsic movement for them. So using technology, it's already a path of the way you grow. Therefore, you have much less anxiety of using it. You understand what I mean? So somehow the youth generation, because they're already inside of it, they don't have this anxiety of learning on how to use something new. And then they can go deeper inside of it much faster. And therefore use it for something benefit from them. But at the same time, it can be unbeneficial. But so it's like this anxiety by too much things, their capacity of fighting it quite more easily than the way we were doing. And as well, I would say, what we see very clear with the youth generation, it's their perspective into well-being. And we will have young people coming in the podcast later, and they're going to share with us about that. I want to hear about what they feel, but what we can see in their behavior, they drink less. The young generation is not drinking or taking any kind of drugs, or they are taking care of their health much more than any kind of generation before. It's one
very true.
As a consumer as well. Like you can see the consumer market is pushing on the young generation about taking care of themselves and any kind of healthy product. So the market is not pushing, the market is adapting to the demand, and the demand from the young generation, it is well-being. It is a healthcare.
Well, young people, if you're listening, put your comments and thoughts in the chat. Dr. Paul, something else that seems to be important that's not often talked about is sleep. Is sleep actually important? I know people will tell us we should sleep, but is it actually important to our well-being?
Is it important for you?
It is for me, but I'd like a lot more. Is it important? And
tell me as a father, you're a father, right? How do you how is the balance of the sleep in the family, in the system with the kids and you as the parents?
Well, what we try to do is to first get the kids kind of taken care of, and then after the kids go to sleep, then the parents go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But we found that as the child or children get older, I mean, they become more independent and they have their own lives and their own schedule. So we just try to manage it so that everyone basically gets a set amount of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what's happening, they may get more or less in any given night, but we try to get a certain amount of quality sleep per night.
Great. So you already care about it, but do they answer positively to what you try to do?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. So the same, we have been teenager and we want to go to bed later, but actually it's not a psychological thing, it's a biological thing. Like the teenager don't have the melatonin, the hormone that will help you to understand it's dark outside, so it's time to stop movement and to go to bed. They don't have the melatonin fixed like the adult. So during this time, actually it's a dialogue between sexual organ and the melatonin development during this age, and that's why they have melatonin a little bit everywhere. So their biology is pushing them to go to sleep later. Okay, so it's normal for a teenager to want to go to bed later. Now the society is pushing us to wake up at the same time with the parents because they need to go to work, so the kids go to school on the same time. So we try to work with the school about like modulating timing for kids on the morning, having much more light in order to modify their biology. But here is just I prefer to go to a little broader understanding of this, which is the biological system of the kids. In general, the biological system is the base for everything. I like to say sleep is on the same time the symptom, the problem, and the cure. Because sleep is in the middle of your biology and your psychology. It's the foundation of your nervous system to be able to take on board any kind of knowledge that you will have around. Take on board any type of feeling that you're going to have. So from outside and from inside, sleep is your nervous system is in the middle. So sleep is a thing that is going to give you the base of your nervous system. From there, what I mean is not only the sleep then, it's your whole biological system. So nutrition, sport, breathing, sleep, of course, it's all together which is giving the base to a young adult or to a young youth to grow better. If your system, your biological system is not stable, you cannot learn as good as the person next to you. Whatever the teacher is better or not, what matters the most is your nervous system first. Are you opening your eyes, or are you anxious, or are you tired? Then you're not going to learn or to understand the same way that the person next to you.
That's an amazing explanation that I haven't heard before. Now, particularly with the youth, is there anything else that you can unpack for us about that system?
Yeah, so the number one, I think, which is my badly understand, is the fact like they want to go to sleep later. And that this one, we need to care about that for sure. The number two is this one, youth, they follow what parents do. So
that's true.
They don't follow what parents say, they follow what parents do. We learn by mimicking things. We learn how to smile because we see someone smile. We learn how to do sport because we see someone how he do sport, how he move. And we learn emotion by watching emotion of people. So any kind of behavior the child are doing, he learn by copying. So now I go back to the beginning, the more you scroll, and the more you have information that you can copy. So you are hyper aware of your capacity of copying, of the way you appear. But then you don't have time to expressing what you have learned. And then you dissolve your identity inside of that instead of building yourself.
Wow. That's a lot. Parents in the chat, share your thoughts with us. Now you mentioned scrolling, and let's just turn to the topic of social media. Social media is something that's very present in almost everyone's lives, whether we want to admit it or not. What are your thoughts with social media, and particularly you talked about kind of this idea of mimicking and learning through watching others. Does social media have that same influence?
Yes, I think the social media is replacing the safety of the family or the parents. For sure. But there is no. I mean, we cannot fight that.
Is that a good thing, or?
I don't mind if it's good or bad. It is a fact. So what do you do with it? The question is
that's true.
We see it as a systemic level, right? It's like we're not here to debate if it's good or bad. It's more about how do we implement it. So how we, again, the kids, the youth generation, when they grow, they need boundary. They need to feel. We shouldn't overprotecting them. When we overprotect, what we do, we create softness. Then when they will arrive in the right time of their life and they will fight reality, then they will dissolve. So of course protecting is interesting at some point, specifically when you are in a closed system and when you can concentrate on learning something, for example. But as soon as you go and you want to learn a skill, which is a social skill, you need to be in reality, you shouldn't be overprotected. So I know as a parent it's a very hard way to modulate the capacity of letting the kids having an experience, even if it's a negative experience for him, it's still a positive experience at the end. That's what we call the cognitive appraisal. So it's, you got something bad happen to you, but actually you learn how to take out the positive outcome of this negative thing. So that's, yeah.
So with our kids, with this, how do they navigate this? How do they kind of figure out their direction? What should they do? How do they find that meaning for themselves?
They need adults. They need people to guide them. They need people to show them the way without forcing them inside of the way. So when you're kids, not know any way, then you lost. Too much way, and then you feel constricted. So we are always inside of this balance. But this doesn't change a lot. It has always been like this. Huh? It's like the way for the teenager is always to find this balance about pressing and giving freedom. But here with the youth generation, instead of when you were young and you wanted to know something, you were going to ask the people around you. Here they have access to the knowledge in a box. The whole knowledge exists here, right? But actually this knowledge, is it true or not? I don't think that, again, the real question is he going to believe it or not? So here I go more inside of the belief system. And that's the way I think take care of the well-being of the youth is to be in constant talk with them in order to make them express what they believe. Okay?
Can you explain that a little more, this belief system idea?
So we are in a world of the belief system. It's like you have so much information and misinformation on the same time that we don't know what to believe anymore. But on the same time, we need to believe something to be steady, to be a human being, to have an identity. So we will believe things, but we need to compare it with other people who are maybe around the same system to see if my belief system is right or not. If you don't do that, then you become a psychopath, basically. You are inside of your own system and you keep believing your own system. So what we do, they do it with their social media, they do it with their friends with the same age, but actually they need adults to tell them like, oh, what you believe is not right or wrong. It's like, what does it mean for you? What do you feel when you believe that? What do you want to do with this feeling? So make them reflect on those belief systems, not just believe something because your friend tells is right, but more about like, and bringing inside of you, empower this belief and see if it makes meaning for you.
Wow, that's a lot to digest. Now with that, you were talking about kind of this internal dialogue with yourself, and somehow that it can lead to different thought processes. So let's speak a little bit more about the pathology of this. In your opinion as a professional, what would you say is the likely pathology and how to move forward with that?
what we see is the identity confusion, I will say. I don't like to say pathology. I prefer say like the dimension or the moment of your belief system. You see, I go back in the belief system. So we are inside of not only the identity confusion about what I was saying before with the scrolling and the mirror. We have the identity confusion of the sex as well, which is going much more now than before. There is a reason for that. There is a reason about we were as well like this when we were young. We had all teenagers pass by a moment with you have this kind of identity confusion. Now it's about the capacity of expressing it, and that brings me to what I call emotional literacy. So your capacity of expressing what you feel, and I think that's one of the best way to avoid to go to the pathology. Okay, we can talk as well about ADHD if you want, because it's very fashion right now with the use fashion. Sorry to use this word, but people are looking to put a diagnosis instead of looking to modulate the system. You see what I mean? As soon as you are diagnosed, you feel your anxiety is going down because you find out what is the issue. But what we want is not really find out what is the issue, is to make in place something which is making you feeling better.
Oh.
Because pathology is on a medical perspective and well-being is not in a medical perspective. So that's why I don't want to talk about pathology. Any kind of issues that people feel they are living or they have any issue or they feel bad about it, they should go to consult. Psychiatrist, medical doctor, and then they have an idea about what is their biological or psychological problem. And sure, I'm very agree with that, and it needs to be like this. When I talk about the well-being, it's for the people who are already normal, in the sense of they don't have pathology. And so outside of this normality, what do? You can elevate yourself to feel even better. So we do that in sport all the time. You want to play better, so you train better. You want to learn better. What do you do for learning better?
Yeah, you get different perspectives and you go find some research and some goals.
For example?
I know, as you know, being in a classroom, when you want to teach somebody something, that's actually the best way to learn, is by teaching somebody else to do it. And so you have to figure out those steps of how do you do it, what are kind of the bottlenecks, and work kinks out of that. And so teaching and getting to a point where you can teach somebody else actually is one of the better ways of learning.
And here you bring inside of teaching. Before I was talking about showing, you see, like and I think this balance is very hard as well. That's the balance of the well-being. How much you spend time to teach someone, to tell him what to do, and how much you show someone how to do. This balance is very important.
And I found it interesting also that you started talking about the different terminology and vocabulary, even with, you know, kind of the medical perspective versus the well-being perspective. Do you think shifting someone's mindset from that, I'm going to start using well-being terminology versus pathology terminology, do you think that would be useful?
I think so, but I think we're going to have someone in the podcast, right, talk about that. And I'm really looking forward to feedback on this. Yes, I think it's very useful to make a distinction. We want people to not being medically healed to after being able to perform, right? So that's always the first step. You want to take out any disease or any problem, organic problem is possible. Then after, from there, do you want to stay just normal, or do you want to use your full potential? And that's what the well-being is doing.
Because I think you've touched upon it, but just if you could unpack a little bit more. I know as a parent, I would be thinking more of, you know, mental illnesses versus, you know, something that's a well-being issue. So how do you really distinguish between those two?
A psychiatric diagnosis.
Okay, so
it's if you scare and if you don't know, we have medical doctor, and that's why you need to go to consult to be sure. And then when you feel like, oh, actually there is nothing, most part of people start to go for a second or a third outcome, treatment, and maybe at that time you just say, okay, what can I do actually to modulate my nervous system? For me, it's everything is a link between your biology and your psychology. So what you think is, and the way you think, sorry, not what you think, but the way you think is belonging to what you are feeling right now. So this is Damasio, Antonio Damasio, like a neuroscientist from end of the 90s, which was very inside of what we call the somatic, which I think it's a very nice way. So it's not like I am because I think, but it's like I feel, therefore I think. So that
interesting. So do you feel? I know listening to your words, I have my heart increasing, my heart rate, but then I hear your other explanation, and I feel so much more relaxed. Do you think as a society we're kind of going in the direction of being a little bit too overprotective?
But that's what we have to see with the youth generation. You have to see the way you act on the youth generation. And does it help them to develop or not? So on the same time, it's not about what we do with them, but how we measure what we do with them. I think it's a good perspective to see it like this, is we need to see what we are doing in order to don't reproduce the same mistake later. And I really feel that there is no big instance of measurement on the way we help kids. You don't learn how to be a parent, for example. Right?
Yeah, there's no instruction.
How come?
Yeah.
How come? What the kids do in the school, you learn how to be a good student, right? But I would love to know one day that there is some school can help parents to be better parents.
Well, yeah. If we find that, I'd like to find that book as well. Now you also talked about devices and how the youth interact with technology. I know one very popular app right now is Instagram. Would you say that there's a certain way that we could have Instagram well-being, or something to where we can have well-being with these particular devices that would be helpful for our youth
Is it
audience?
Instagram is used in China?
They have an alternative version of it, yeah.
Okay.
Alternative version.
So let's talk about all this kind of social media, right?
Yes, social media.
How do you use it for well-being? There is multiple ways, and I think it's always, the mind is beautiful because you always find a way to turn something into what he needs, or something what he needs. And I think social media, of course you can just be passive, taking what it is, but you can use it as a way of expression. And when you use it as a way of expression, it can impact, it can help you in your social or your mental well-being for sure. Like physical as well. Like you will measure, you will post your. I don't know. I'm going somewhere which is not too much my world. I'm not too much in the social media, but I'm not from this generation, I think. But what I see from the youth and the way they use it, they are not using it. They are part of it. It's a part of their life.
That's an interesting observation.
It's inside of them. So as long as we start to see it with this angle, which I don't think it's the right angle. So that's why we need young to come and to speak and to express the way they use it and the way they, as a part of the social media, what it brings to them and how they use it to feel better in their well-being. So that's going to be the next part of this podcast, right?
Oh, yes, excellent. Now we also know that the social media and different aspects can bring feelings of comfort and feelings of discomfort. Kind of, as a professional, again, what advice would you be giving to people as far as not making it binary of comfort or not comfort, but how does this help with well-being going forward to where they can more easily accept it?
You mean the comfort and the discomfort?
That comes from interacting with social media, yeah.
It stays inside of the same system. It's I will not answer to that. I will prefer a young, because we talk about the youth, how they do it.
Okay.
I would really like to have those information from them. Then you can go around and start to think better. It's like, so we need to let them speak and to let them express themselves to us and what they need, I would say, from them. What I know is like, we need to help them to navigate it. We need to be here present if they have questions. And we need to install systemic possibility for them to express themselves when they need it.
Okay. So as far as ideal development pathways, as adults we can help them with guidance. As a youth, what would you recommend for them? Like as far as development from youth up into adulthood?
I think multi-experience is the best. The more experience, but the more experience is always, it creates more pathway in your brain. Just make it simple, okay? So every time you do something new, every time you have a new pathway in your brain, which is connecting with something else. But at some point, you need to take a decision of, okay, I'm going to focus on certain pathway. And focus on certain things that are going to start to make it better and better. So this use time, it's really about that. It's like you spend a lot of time testing a lot of things, and at some point you start to take some decision about, okay, I'm going to go deeper in this one. And then not be scared about making mistake, because the more mistake, the strongest you will be outside. So actually you want to make mistake. So the adult should be here to tell them that this is okay to make a mistake. So when actually they have the pressure all the time that they should not make mistake. So that's this balance. So for the youth, it's like, go deeper on something at some point, and don't be scared about making mistakes. Right?
Well, I know from being a parent myself that, yeah, we encourage them to make mistakes. But another thing that I see is, while they're scrolling, often it'll be like, Dad, I'm bored. Is being bored something that's actually beneficial, or should we try to, as a parent, just fill all their time with activities and classes and just keep them occupied? What are your thoughts?
Personally, I don't know what it is to be bored. I have a very difficulty to understand what it means. But I think it's more a symptom of I'm not doing something that excites me. Okay, so what kind of thing I can do to be excited? But here we go back to this problem. I'm scrolling, so I start to get used about having a lot of things, and I need more actually to get exciting again. So you bring them to do something more, and then they will need even more better later. So it's just a negative spiral here. Yes, implementing pause in between action, it's one of the secret of neurobiology. It's like every time you do a pause between two things that you are learning, the more you will remember it later. If you put a nap in between two learning, you will remember even better. So yes, not doing anything, it's always doing something. Yes. So in China we have this. That's good we talk about that, because that's true in China education. We see that very clearly, that the kids are forced to work all the time. Not just from 8 to 5, they work from 8 to 10. Or sometimes midnight, right? Yes. We see that in China for the people who don't know the way education works here. But it is. Why? Because the parents think that actually the kids need to know everything. And the more he knows, and the more he's knowledgeable, and the better it is, and the more he will be successful later in his life. But forcing inside of the head of a kid's knowledge, when you have internet and you have all the knowledge you want here, is it very relevant anymore? I don't think so. And then the efficiency of pushing knowledge in the brain, it's in the peer review science very clear that it's the worst way to do so. Yes. Like you need to implement specific knowledge at specific time of the day, and you need to make people practice. What is good I see in education and well-being here in China have changed recently is the access to sport. So sport before was not inside of the high school diploma, but now it has been implemented, and then it helps because the body and the brain goes together. If you don't develop your body capacity, your capacity of learning is lower than actually the people who don't do sport. So, I mean, in Western country, we do both of them for many years, but in China, they have start to change this, and so it helps a lot. I'm very confident of the new generation in China because of that. That's one of the big points.
Yeah, do know recently they implemented some policies to increase sport in schools.
Yeah.
And so you kind of touched upon it, but what do you see, because we have international schools, we have private schools, we have public schools, what do you see kind of as the general big role in education has in well-being?
Education is at the the first point of well-being everywhere I see. The biggest of my work is to work with school. Schools are demanding for well-being, understanding and practice and system, because they want the kids to be the best. And they have money, and they have willingness, and they have power to implement new things. So I'm very positive on that. Like education, and it should be the first place where well-being should be implemented, because you put the best practice as young as possible. We are talking about sleep.
Yes.
If your sleep is good, your kids will have a good sleep, and then you will see it's great, will be much better. So I will give you an example. If kids sleep in the weekend, like a parents, for example, so sleep longer the weekend, their grade, it's correlated with poor grade, with poorer grades than the people who don't sleep in. So I will not explain you now the whole principle, but it's like you create jet lag on the kids every weekend. So the kids will think like it's good for him because he doesn't know, he just want to sleep later.
and we're taught the opposite. Yeah, it's interesting. Now, since our theme is youth generation, we have the other aspects of youth, which is their parents. How do you feel about the way parents are developing in today's world? As someone that works with schools, parents, and others, do you feel at all they're becoming more anxious, kind of like the kids with their devices?
In China, what I see that parents are more, now this generation, it's more open. They are more willing to let them having much more freedom. Again, if it's good or not. Like what I was saying before. Yeah. You press too much or you let too much freedom. The recently issue that I saw is parents that give a little bit too much freedom, I would say. And the kids were looking for rules or direction, and then the parents is okay, I have to let him do whatever he wants. And I see more a little bit that when it was the opposite before. Right? So in the 20 years I saw the evolution in China, I can see it come from this pressure to start to let him go a little bit.
Now, something that's developing, it seems here in China at least, that parenting is starting later in life, where people are having children as they're a little bit older. Does this somehow influence well-being, or?
Yeah, I think so. You're right. Yeah, it's a very good point. But number one is this: in China, parents spend a lot of time, a lot of resources for the kids' education and well-being as well. But their conception of well-being is maybe not the one we are talking today. It's more about I don't want him to be sick and I want him to know everything. Okay, so the willingness of doing so, I see it at any kind of age. If your parents are 20 years old or 40 years old, it's your kids. You have to bring him. We still have this kind of very strong family tree, like the grandparents, the parents, and the kids, and the family system is very strong in China. So whatever, at any age you will have a kid, you will take care of it very well, very well, as much as possible. It's a social pressure as well. Huh? It's like it's a way of differentiating yourself from the other. Like my kids is successful and this kind of thing. Yeah.
Now, with getting older, also there's biological changes. Is there anything that we should pay attention to, kind of internally in our bodies, to help with well-being? Like any of our bodily systems that, for example, maybe you mentioned the connection between the brain and our bodies. Is there anything with the nervous system that we should know?
You talk about longevity here?
Yes.
Like how to get older and well-being. I think we will have a full podcast on that. It's to use your body as much possible at that time, because you will set up your capacity of getting much older. If your heart has been used well when you were young at that time, then you will be able to get longer. And if your muscle system has been developed at this age, then you will keep the memory of that later as well. So for me, the youth is a good time for the body preparation, because you cannot do that later.
Yes.
But the brain can be used later, right? You can learn, but of course you will not learn as fast as when you're young, but really the body, you cannot train it the same way than when you were young.
Oh, so it seems a lot is going on with the youth generation and being mindful of well-being. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about the youth generation with this upcoming month series that you'd like to tell our audience?
Yeah, I'm very exciting that we are going to receive an expert on the youth and here in China. We're going to see how they use the technology, and I'm really looking forward to have proper young people who come here to express what they want around this topic. Like we just need to let people speak, I would say first, and then we will extract the information from them.
All right, excellent. So Dr. Paul, we have kind of a tradition on our podcast where we have some lightning round questions about well-being. And so I'll just ask you some questions. Simply just say the first thing that comes to mind. All right, our first question for you, Dr. Paul. What sport makes you happiest?
Rugby.
All right. How many hours of sleep do you get per day?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. And my final speed round question for you. Which food gives you the most comfort?
Rochon.
Oh, Rochon. Very, very good. Well, Dr. Paul, was there anything else you wanted to tell our audience before we conclude?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are following, and I invite you to follow the next 3 podcasts just to know a little bit more and more details, more information on this topic. Thank you.
All right. Well, on behalf of the Engineering Wellbeing Podcast here at Jinshan, we thank you for watching today. Have a good day, and we'll see you later. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Bye-bye.
Engineering Wellbeing at Jinshan is about creating bridges between the biology, psychology, and social with a China perspective, where humans can function at their full potential.